If you're watching this video, it's probably because you've had a really intense year at uni. The last year you might have moved out, started a new course, made entirely new friends, joined new clubs and societies, and sat probably multiple exams. That's a lot for such a short period of time. Now, you probably have 4 months until your next year at uni, or before you start full-time work. Of course, you're likely to spend this time working, but when you're not working, 4 months can feel like a significant amount of time. So I'm here to answer your questions about the awkward transition between finishing uni, your summer break, and then starting uni again. Like how to make the most of your summer break and not just let the time slip, and not be surprised when September and Freshers Week come rolling by again. Now, you may be thinking, Ava, I literally spent 8 months of my life at uni doing work, so why would I spend my summer break doing even more work? That is not the point of this video. I'm sharing with you a careful balance of how to rest over summer effectively, but also be productive in your free time. So this will put you in the strongest position possible starting your next year at uni, in all aspects of your life, like wellness, academics, work experience. Firstly, rest is so important. You've just had an exhausting year academically and socially, so don't feel guilty if you spend the entire first month of your summer break trying to rest as much as you can, whether that's settling into being home again, settling into a new routine away from uni work, and letting yourself catch up on sleep. It might be a day, a week, or a month, whatever works best for you, but make sure you give yourself enough time to get your energy back, especially if you've just had exams. If you don't rest when you can, you don't want to go back to uni in September feeling just as exhausted as when you left the last year. You should try to recharge as much as possible so you're mentally and physically prepared for another year at uni. I personally found it quite tricky going from a really intense and specific uni routine like lectures and classes at a certain time and revising, having my own independence, to then moving back home for the summer break, working and having an entirely different routine. I always felt better when I made a new routine at home. This way I felt like I actually had some structure in my days and my weeks rather than just working and sleeping. And so once you've managed to rest as much as possible and you feel like you've got some energy back, I want you to try to reconnect with your hobbies, because if you're like me, you probably didn't make enough time for your hobbies whilst you're at uni, which is completely understandable and normal. So over your summer break, I want you to spend some time doing the things that you used to do that made you feel like yourself. That could be anything, like if you enjoyed crochet or knitting, or if you had a really good gym routine. I want you to try and rack your brains and think about what you used to do in your free time before you started at uni, and reconnect with it. This will also help you with the awkward transition between what might have been an amazing first year and then starting a second year. This will help to give you some purpose. Reconnecting with hobbies and resting go hand in hand. So use your hobbies to help you feel more grounded. You can even start new hobbies like trying to make jewellery, even making some extra cash if you sell it on Etsy. Whatever helps you to wind down and feel like yourself, try it again. It will definitely help you to switch off from your academics, unwind after the adrenaline of the exam season, and make you feel like yourself again, rather than feeling like your entire purpose is centred around exams. If you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to subscribe. I want you to reflect on the previous year. You can do this once you've rested and reconnected with your hobbies and feel a bit more like yourself and like you actually have the mental energy to do some deep thinking and digging. So why should you reflect on the previous year? Well, especially if you've just finished your first year, but even after second or third year, or even a year abroad, reflecting on the last year is so important to understand your growth. And by reflecting, I mean you can literally write it on a piece of paper, in your journal if you have one, or even just sitting and dedicating 5 minutes to think about the previous year, to fully process it. And what I want you to do is I want you to go through last year and firstly ask yourself what you enjoyed about it. Was it your new independence that you had? Was it cooking yourself meals? Starting new societies? Did you enjoy studying your course or certain modules? And then I want you to think about what you didn't enjoy so much. Maybe certain parts of your course you didn't like that much. Maybe you had some issues with flatmates. Maybe you had too many nights out, or too many all-nighters, or too many rushed assignments. Try to be really honest with yourself when you're doing this, so you can truly understand what works for you and what you could maybe do differently next year. And if you do think you need a better work-life balance at uni, I did a recent video on how to make the perfect work-life balance that's actually realistic and you can stick to. If you want to watch that, I'll put the link here. So reflection is important to be aware of the positives that you enjoyed, but also to identify any changes that you need to make for next year, especially when the workload ramps up and grades start to count. So you want to put yourself in the best possible position. I know it might feel really uncomfortable thinking about what didn't go so well last year, especially if you didn't have that great of an experience, but I promise you it will make the next year at uni so much more enjoyable if you're really specific about what you didn't enjoy so much, so that you can know in advance what to change. So by this point you've rested, you've reconnected with your hobbies, and you've also reflected on the last year. So now you're probably feeling a bit more energized to do something more practical, getting any experience you can. By experience I mean ideally work experience or volunteering. This can obviously include working full-time or part-time during the summer break, whether that's in hospitality, retail, as you're likely saving up for next year. Any work you do over the summer, whether it's a planned internship, work experience, or working full-time or part-time, is such good experience, and you can really utilise this strongly on your CV, especially if you're going into second year, when you might be making applications for internships or placement years or studying abroad. This is also really important for any third years that will be graduating soon and so applying for any jobs and positions. So getting any experience that you can to add to your CV is really beneficial, especially over the summer months. You might be thinking that it's far too late now to get any sort of work experience as I know a lot of the applications are months in advance, but you can also send unsolicited applications to any local places that you work at. For example, for my second year, I sent a cover letter and a CV to a local law firm. We weren't advertising for any internships or work experience at the time, and I managed to get 2 weeks of work experience, which was so interesting and beneficial, and I really enjoyed the experience of actually being in a law firm after studying law for 2 years. So please don't be put off if you think that you have to apply months in advance to get work experience. There are opportunities there, and if you are working in retail or hospitality during the breaks, that's a really good experience that you're building too. I always worked in hospitality during summer breaks, and I built so many key skills from handling customers, working as a part of a team, and also working under pressure, especially if you work on Saturdays. They can be very stressful, especially when you're short-staffed. So get any experience you can over the summer break, and whilst you're doing it, think about any skills that you're picking up and learning and developing, and how they might be beneficial in the eyes of an employer, especially if you have an idea of what kind of field or job you want to apply to. And this links to update your CV. If you open up your CV after uni, I bet it still probably has your work experience from year 11 or 12 on it. Nothing wrong with that, but you've now spent a year or more at uni where you have an entirely new set of experiences that are more relevant and probably a little bit more impressive as well. I would say to update your CV sooner rather than later, especially if you are wanting to apply for any internships or placements. It just means that when you start your next year at uni, you're not worrying about updating your CV whilst you're also balancing assignments and classes. If you're also graduating, many job application cycles actually start in September, so now's the perfect time to do some reflections on your experiences and update your CV. If you do want a more in-depth video on how I make my CV stand out, comment down below. One of my top tips for making a great CV is making sure that when you're describing what you've done in an experience, use really strong action verbs at the start of each bullet point, like delivered, structured, coordinated, rather than more passive verbs like I participated or I collaborated or I worked together. Focus on the value that you delivered. You should also try to quantify your experiences too, where possible. Like exactly how many customers did you help, or how many pages did you write, how many customers did you reach. Try to make your CV as specific and strong as possible. Whilst we're talking about careers, I want you to log into your uni or school careers website, probably for the first time, and look at the resources on there. I found so many great resources when I checked my uni's career page, from how to build a CV to video interview practice, and also loads of different internship and work experience opportunities in locations all across the UK. If you are wanting to apply for any internships, this is a really great place to start to learn about what's required and how you can best tailor your CV and any skills that you may need to strengthen. Like if you're like me and you don't really feel that great about interviews, you could do some practice interview questions using the website. Lastly, towards the end of the summer, you're probably thinking about going back to uni again. Maybe you've decided what modules you're going to be taking next year. So one thing that you should do to help out your future self is firstly to read the syllabus for the modules you're taking next year, and also to read the first chapter for each module that you're studying. This more applies to humanities or social sciences like law, and get ahead. I did this each summer break and it was so helpful. The first week of uni can be so chaotic. Most of the time I got ill anyway from Freshers Week, so doing this just meant that I didn't get behind. I went into lectures and my first week's seminars feeling really confident in the material already, as I already had a base level of understanding. So if you're able to, log onto your university reading list website, wherever it's found, find the set readings that you have, and read the first chapter of the textbook. The reason why I say to do this at the end of summer is obviously if you do this way at the start of the summer, you'll probably have forgotten everything by the time you need it at uni anyway. So try to read it as late as possible, August or September time, so the content is fresh in your mind. This will really just help you to settle in the first couple of weeks again when you're seeing your friends, enjoying Freshers Week, and you don't have to worry about doing so many readings the first week of uni. I really hope this video gave you comfort in knowing that you can rest and recover guilt-free. I also hope I inspired you to use this time productively when you feel rested and recovered, to upskill, reflect on your previous year, and also help out your future self as much as possible. Comment this emoji if you watched all the way to the end of this video, and comment down below if you would like a more in-depth video of how I write my CV. Bye!